Let's talk herd. Hi, Sam. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Thank you so much for
Oh,
coming.
thank you.
Hi.
Nice to see you
It's great
both.
to be
Lovely
here.
to see you again.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I was thinking about what we could talk about earlier, and I actually want to tell you a story. It happened yesterday, and I just think it'll be quite it'll bring things up that we can talk about because it was really quite a little kind of miracle feeling. So I have this thing where I don't like to kill like house, like we were just talking about the flies as well, but the horse flies, but the house flies, I don't like to kill them. I just like to kind of catch them in my hand like that and put them out. So there was a really busy one in my office here that was really kind of full of like almost like constantly nagging, like listen, listen, listen. And so I just did where I went to catch, and I'll call her because I felt her as a female energy, but obviously I have no idea really about flies. And so I caught her, and I thought I can feel her, so I'm just going to take her to the door. What did I do? I think I took her to the window, and then when I opened my hands, I realized that I'd injured her. And I just okay, it's only a fly, but I just felt like, oh my God, I felt so bad about it. And so I thought I'm just going to like sit with her on my hand. And so I went out the back and I sat down on this. We've got this kind of patio, but well, it's not really a patio. It's just like a concrete ledge. And so I was just sitting there, like just connecting with her. And flies have got this amazing ability to kind of come back to life, and they kind of come back, and I just kind of felt there was something deeper. And so I noticed also that her little head was like turned, and it was like she couldn't move it, she couldn't straighten it, but she was like staring at me. And I just felt this like this is like a journey we're doing together. And so I was just like, I wasn't really tuning into her physically. I was just kind of trying to feel for a miracle because it felt really like it would need a miracle because she seemed quite like off in her whole body. And so I was like, how can I do that? How can I kind of, it's almost like the more you do this kind of stuff, the more aware you get of what you're doing. And you're really like, how do I go into the energy of it and not think? And so I was just tuning into her light. I remember doing that, and it was just fabulous. Like all of these colors, like greens and purples. And it was just so amazing. And it was like, so like emotional. And as I was doing, and it was really fast. It was like 1 minute from feeling that to the next, she suddenly like her head was in the right place. And she was like able to move her head and like doing things. And like putting her sort of tongue in and out a lot, which didn't really feel right, but she was still kind of paralyzed. So I was just sitting with her for quite a long time, and she was just trying out different things and sort of coming back. And then I got this feeling of like, okay, like where do we go from here? Because like you sort of get like, I suppress this in myself because I don't like to feel like I'm that kind of person. But I was like feeling I've got stuff to do. Like, what do I do? How does this conclude? And so I was a bit, and then I thought, well, you could actually sit with that feeling. Like you could really embrace that feeling of like, because I think I didn't really want to go there because I don't like to think of myself as that sort of person who couldn't be bothered basically to spend this time, to take this time. And then I sort of realized that it's that what was one of the really important things I took out of the whole thing was it's not about the conclusion. Like it's not really about what happens. It's about these moments now of sharing this time with this being who felt really sentient. Like the sentience was just like amazing. It was so profound.
It's making me cry.
And I was good. I know it was really like touching on that level. I know. I totally get it because I felt like that. So I kind of I was, we were going to have lunch and I always do my dancing before lunch. So I put her in this little, I'd already tried to give her a little something to eat and I put her in the flower pot. She seemed to kind of go like crazy for it and then just stop. So I thought, okay. So I put her in the flower pot and she sort of just sat on this little bit of wood like she was waiting. And when I was doing my dancing, I was like kind of feeling into her as well and feeling into the relationship. And so then afterwards, I brought her a little bit of maple syrup and she like really seemed to eat
It's
it.
so
And
sweet.
I know, and she seemed like better and better, like gradually better and better and walking better. And then I think I left her again for a while. And then when I came back, she was like walking like normally, but still not kind of flying. And I just felt like it wasn't about that. And she was kind of, she walked all over my hands and I brought her back through to my office. And I felt like, I don't know, it just felt like this connection had been made. And so I put her, I've got these plants in here and I put her in there because it just felt, well, I'd have taken her outside and I thought, no, it just doesn't feel right. You're not like safe there. And whatever needs to happen, is going to happen. And so I put her in there and I haven't actually seen her since. I did look for her. But then I just realized it really wasn't about that and what happened with her and whether she was able to like finally fly or she was when I left her, she was like normal looking. So that was kind of a
Hmm.
miracle considering like things were squashed and it just felt like that being able to embrace that feeling of, I don't have time for this and I can't be present with this was really important. And also this thing about that it's about the relationship. Like it feels like that's eternal now. Like that feeling that we had. And she again, like when I brought her in here the last time, she was like looking and looking in my eyes. And I don't think the message was like that there was a message as such, like something that I think it was just that we were connecting, and that she was just this amazing being. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you and yeah,
Oh,
just see what that triggers in you or what you feel about that. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
mm. Susan, do you have anything you want to share?
I was what has been coming up for me. I think is just this highlight of the
Mm,
connectivity and the relationship and how moment to moment that
mm,
goes. Um, I connected very much too with what you shared about having these very
yeah.
human moments come up because we have a just the way that we're engineered, right? Like we have this
Yes.
sense of time and we've
True.
created, these
Mm,
structures around time and um, agendas and commitments and the to-do list and being challenged at
mm,
times to be present for what's in the moment. And I know for myself, sometimes I find myself in those moments and my head is trying to say, okay, well, if this doesn't happen at this time, and I'm almost trying to agendaize it, and I can
absolutely.
take something that's just a very kind of
Mm,
pure connection in the moment. And sometimes my head likes to run away with that. And I'm grateful for experiences, with creatures and beings and nature. Uh, I was reminded too, I think Dusty,
mm,
my equine companion, his message is always wait,
yeah.
listen, wait,
Mm, yeah.
listen. And it's this constant reminder to
Mm,
really just come back. and to be present. And I really loved what you said. It's very resonant for me personally, of the piece that, I think that there is a tendency as a human being, and I think this can be a very valuable gift, with meaning making of things, and it's also a gift as well on the other side, to step back from that meaning making and really just allow a moment and a connection and a relationship to be.
Yes. Oh, I so agree with that. Yeah. And I think these days, especially when we're so intertwined with social media and like everything's a story, and you're kind of, I wasn't really doing that with her, but I do feel that there is this soundtrack all the time, like you say, in your mind, that you're like, and the more you can't fight it, because when you try to fight it, it just, it just gets stronger and gets more. Yeah. And I suppose there's certain parts of our lives that we've got the habit more, or I don't really like that word habit, but we're more able to let go and just tune in and just not kind of figure it all out. Another is where it's less. And I think, yeah, you've just made me add something up there, actually, because I think my sense of my feeling of guilt that I had at the beginning, and the weight, and also the sense of like that came later of like not having the time for it. When I feel those things about myself, then it's harder to stay out of the mind track. So yeah, it's like, and those are the times when you really need to embrace, aren't they? Like the feelings, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And there's so much emotion,
Camille,
isn't there, with all of this?
yeah, no, totally. I have a question for you. Did that little connection and that experience with that fly remind you of anything else, like with your horse who passed? I mean, was it bringing up any,
Yes.
because you
And
mentioned
it's
guilt.
interesting. Yes. There's two things that I think of. One is the little dog that we had, who we lost recently. And yeah, I think we talked about that, didn't we? How she got trapped under the tractor and it was me driving it. So there was that. And there was also my sister, because I felt and that wasn't so much, I don't think that was so much about guilt, but that was more about the way that her neck was damaged, this little fly. I was like, yeah, I could really feel that, the challenge of that, to look. Actually, yeah, you've reminded me of something that has been really powerful that I've been thinking about recently. That and it applies to both situations. When this accident happened with Gracie, I still haven't resolved the fact that I wasn't able, because I was so just frightened, I think, to look. I wasn't able to look at how she was, like, what had happened with the tractor. Like, so I just couldn't bring myself to look at it. I just had to go and go back in and move it and like get out of the situation. And I assume from the way her positioning, and that was the right thing to do, because I just moved off her and it had been on her. But I really don't know. I don't know if perhaps it was only on her a little bit, and somehow made it worse. I don't know, because I couldn't. It was so traumatic that I couldn't engage with it. I couldn't actually go calmly because she was so
Mm-hmm.
in such pain and everything that, you know how you just go into this blind sort of panic. So there was, I think that's part of it with this fly, because with her, I was just able to just like look and just sort of see
Mm-hmm.
the damage, you know, and just kind of engage with it and you know,
Not
yeah, so maybe
personalize it.
yeah, yeah, because there wasn't the same fear around it, I suppose, because it's, you know, and there's a level of that she
Mm-hmm.
was a fly and she's got a different physical structure, and also they're just so miraculous at healing themselves, and so it was
Mm-hmm.
less challenging. Yeah, so that definitely came up.
So I
Yeah.
wonder if it was a really beautiful opportunity for you to kind of
Mm,
heal that previous situation in a way.
wow.
Um,
Yeah,
and still,
it's
I mean, and
amazing.
still just the story is so beautiful, right?
Yeah,
And I think we can so
yeah.
often um, make these determinations of judgment of this is
Mm,
worthy of my attention or this is not worthy of my attention. And yet here's this sweet little fly who, of course,
mm,
is worthy of your attention and
yeah.
um, intention. It's really just
Mm,
obviously I started crying. So it's a sweet story.
yeah. So true, though, that there's something there that, like, the depth of what is there. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
remember reading about a lady who had saved a bumblebee. And I think the bumblebee was born without wings or something. She couldn't fly. So she took her in the house and she fed her and looked after her for like her whole
Mm-hmm.
lifespan. Can't remember how long. It was
No.
like a couple of months or something. And it's just amazing the relationship she had with her. And I think sometimes we're kind of scared to go into life that deeply because we're like, oh my God, what could that mean? You know? And I think we just don't even think about it often, the
Mm-hmm.
possibilities that are there. Yeah. Yeah, because another one I just
And
remembered was somebody who, sorry, I was just going to say someone who healed, like they reconstructed a shell for a snail. And also I saw a butterfly,
oh,
a butterfly that they made the wing again somehow. And you're thinking, oh my God, like,
oh my
but I don't,
gosh.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Mm,
I mean, I think that you don't want to then feel guilty that you're not doing all of those things necessarily. But just to, like you say, just because it was only yesterday that I came to that realization that I just couldn't, or the day before, or whatever, that I couldn't engage with that about, you know, like
mm-hmm.
that it was just such a terrifying thing. And that I just felt really like unresolved about it. So, yeah,
Mm.
it's amazing how it,
So,
yeah.
I was just going to say, just a small piece is that I'm seeing this beautiful illustration of a range and kind of this honoring of a range that we have available to us um, at any given
Mm,
point in time. And
yes.
I think it's a beautiful
Mm,
reminder that sometimes while it can feel, our human experience is existing as a fixed point, we know that it's not. And being able to,
mm,
recognize that range and
absolutely.
be present in different spaces of the range, from more gross to subtle, um,
Mm,
you know, and it's not just linear, but it's multidimensional.
yeah.
So yeah, it just popped up for me.
Yeah. Love that way of putting it. Yeah. Yeah. So true. Yeah, it's really it's like you keep getting reminded of things like that again and again, and you're just in different contexts, and it just sort of fills out like who you are more. Not even reminded in a mental way, just like, you start to just become something different or someone different because you're experiencing it. Yeah, really amazing.
For me personally, I really connected to your ability to pause in that moment. And that's been a really present lesson for me. Just every chance I get of a pause before I do something, or pause before I say something, or pause, just that momentary pause has been so life altering for me lately.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's kind of that position if you're on a road before you have to turn, and it's that pause of deciding which direction you turn. And so for you had that opportunity. You made a conscious effort to pause and then follow this process, which was just so lovely. And to be able to connect with this being, and truly, if I assume it's so, but if we are all one, then that being is no different than you and I and the tree outside my window. So, of course, why would you not want to connect and support and serve her in some way?
Sam,
Yes.
I'm right there with
That's
you
so, yeah.
with the pause. And I loved your analogy of, coming to a change in road direction and having that pause. And something that popped up for me was also, it's amazing the space that's available when we're able to take that pause and have that experience of the space. And I had my mind, I was right there with you at that intersection. And then in my mind, I had this line of cars coming up behind me. And I'm feeling this very like visceral reaction in my body of like, I want to pause. I want the space. And there's all these people waiting for me. And how, challenging, it can be for me to have the pause. And I've really been trying to practice that with others present, because I feel for me that has been my most challenging space, is when others are present and it's like, oh, waiting on me, where it's up to me to take that, personal leadership step in saying, I'm still going to make the pause. I'm so grateful for that share, and so much relevance and connectivity in what you shared with us, to kick off the podcast, Camille. I mean, it's to dial that pause in and realize, and have space around which direction am I choosing to go with this. Thank you both. Wow.
Yeah, what a beautiful, such a, yeah. I'm just wondering, like, what is it that allows us to get to that point where we can pause? I mean, is it the times that we didn't pause? Like, is it the wish to? Because going back to that experience of mine, I really, truly, like, I actually stood in the field and I said, I want to heal this. Like this. It wasn't even so much the fear, because although it was the fear in that instant that was why I couldn't pause. It was just like the set, like you say, Susan, it could have been because there were people waiting. It could have been a totally different scenario. It wasn't really about that. It was about just this idea that we don't have the space, that we just can't for whatever reason, even like, because we, just can't be bothered as well. It's another reason. But yeah, so what do you think? That's just a personal evolution, that we come to the point where we want to, and we like value it enough? Or have you been really aware of that, of making that choice, would you say?
Do you have anything, Susan, before I chime in?
Sam, I would love for you to share, and I will go afterwards, please.
I can only share my own personal experience. And it's, I think the biggest learning for me is when I don't pause and I catch it after the fact.
Yeah.
And then, and so then the space, like maybe when I first started really being more mindful of this, the space between when the opportunity to pause was available and then I didn't take that, but then I realized it, and it was maybe, hours later in the day as I'm reflecting on my day. And then this situation comes to mind, and then I realize, oh gosh, that was a perfect opportunity to pause and I didn't do it. And over time, the space between those two is starting to narrow a bit. And so sometimes I don't get the pause, and yet before I actually make a decision to go right or left, then I realize, oh, I still can pause. I still can slow this whole process down. Even in the midst of heading in this direction, I can still slow this down. And like Susan said, even with 25 people behind me, and you could use that 25 people behind you as a metaphor for the 25 thoughts in my head about all the things on my agenda for the day. Those are lining up behind me as well. But it's such a gift. And I think, Susan, it is a gift the way you talked about it. It's a gift to us, ourselves, to be able to, and to desire to, and to honor ourselves enough to make that pause. So for me, it's learning by not doing it. That's how I'm ever so slowly practicing.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, what you said about how it's a gift for us. Because when you imagine that situation where you have all this pressure and yet you're able to take that time, it's like you're being you're giving you yourself, like your energy, the time that it needs to just process or be aware or perceive. Yeah, which is, I mean, it's like, yes, I'm really kind of exploring this whole relationship at the moment of of how we are love, and that when we're not, like for example, I was just walking in the woods the other day, and I was tuning into different energies, and I was tuning into the energy of certain, like not like certainty, like knowing. And I'm trying to remember them. I think knowing was like this kind of amazing, like gong, like these things, these sort of just, yeah, like a sort of reverberation. That's the word for it. And then I can't really remember the others, but when I got to love, I felt like love was everything. Love was just omnipresent. And then I realized that love is like the interaction between what maybe between different call it between contrast in a way. So it's like where there is light and there isn't light, and the coming in of light to non-light is love. So it's like, although it is everything, and it's a bit like God, although God is everything and all inclusive, there's still like the element of darkness, and it feels like it's love is the way that darkness is given light or like interacted with. And so it's, yeah, it feels like, so I keep kind of every time there's a different like conversation like we're having where like that self-love and self-authentication comes in, I'm like thinking, how does that relate to being love? Like we are love. And if you're not in a place where you're not feeling that, then you're just in the outside layers somewhere, and you can choose, to step back in to who you are. And I suppose maybe that's what that pause is. It's like you're stepping back into you, into that real present, just self awareness, I suppose. Yeah.